Office of Kadir Has University. Today, we are very pleased to welcome Mr. John Latham, a very special guest from United Kingdom. Mr. Latham is the Vice-Chancellor and CEO of Coventry University Group. Previously, he has worked across the university in a number of roles, from a lecturer in computer science to his most recent post as Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Business Development, overseeing all industrial and academic link activities. He is a double graduate of Coventry University and has a background in telecommunications and data security. Since 1995, he has been involved in the development of the award-winning Coventry University Technology Park, which has been recognized nationally and internationally for its business incubator facilities. Under his leadership, the university has been identified as the UK's #1 university for work with SMEs. Related to this, he has for most of his career been a fervent supporter of startup businesses and held a number of successful university spin-outs. Recently, he was instrumental in securing the creation of the university's new £32 million Advanced Manufacturing and Engineering Institute in partnership with the Unive Group. This is bringing a groundbreaking and innovative approach to teaching on the frontline industry, as well as delivering a state-of-the-art research center. Externally, he has a number of high-profile roles at the local, regional, national, and European level, which includes being a board member history of engagement in cooperation and development programs, including involvement in a number of committees and partnership projects of the major European research and development, education and training programs. Additionally, he has held roles as a member of various UK government science advisory bodies and has undertaken several secondments with regional and national government agencies, primarily focusing on strategy and policy developments related to innovation and knowledge transfer. Beyond his public sector roles, Mr. Latham has worked for a number of private sector organizations throughout his career, including JHP Group Limited, GEC, GPT, and Jaguar Cars, as well as being awarded a prestigious BT Research Fellowship. Well, after such an impressive resume, I ask you to give your full attention to Mr. Latham and help me in welcoming him to the stage. Mr. Vice-Chancellor, the stage is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you. I'm going to talk for about an hour, and anybody who's used to me talking will find that an hour is quite a short speech for me, but I'll keep it down to an hour. We'll have about 20, 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of questions at the end. So I'm going to talk really around the development of Coventry University, which is seen really in the UK as one of the leading business-facing universities, and certainly a university which has promoted and supported innovation and enterprise from its roots. So I'm going to start off really by making or showing you a short video clip, which is really a video clip which was made now about 3.5, maybe 4 years ago when we won the UK Entrepreneurial University of the Year. But I think it gives you some snapshots of the type of university Coventry is and the kinds of activity that we undertake as a university. Whoops, it didn't show. Sorry, I'll let you do it. Okay. I love technology.
It's the innovation, and we are in the live broadcast. Sorry about that. Wow. It's a very heavy. Sorry about that.
Right.
Is there an IT? Bayağı büyük bir video. Bayağı boş duruyor ama. It's more than 1 gigabyte.
It is.
You should click on the video. Well, we put pointer.
I did. Right.
Sorry.
As people can see, it's a very large file.
Yok, orada bir hurdle var. Onu geçtikten sonra şey yapıyor. Well, the most,
We'll try it without.
well, I think actually further. We need Harun. Yeah, it's 45. It's going on.
If you all lean forward, it'll go faster.
Yeah, it's
Almost.
well. So comes the it's here.
How do you play it?
Oops. It's not this one. What video? Sorry about that.
Okay, let me do it.
It's maybe with
Yeah, let me
yeah, the video.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, we'll do this. This might be easier. Maybe it's easier. Hopefully. Okay, that was a video which I said was produced about 4 years ago now, in terms of the time at which we were looking to enter for the Entrepreneurial University of the Year. What's quite interesting about that presentation is there are some facts and figures in there. So you might have noticed, for example, at that time we'd started 400 new companies. We've now started over 600 new companies. At that time, we were turning over as a university about £124 million worth of activity. This year, we will have turned over £250 million worth of activity, and we estimate that in the next 4 years, we'll move to £500 million turnover as a group. So we, as a university, are innovating all the time. We are growing, we're looking at new partnerships, new ways of working. In fact, our relationship here with Kadir Has is an example of an innovation in terms of being first to the market, being entrepreneurial in terms of the type of programs that we are producing and what we're putting in place. But at the heart of innovating an entrepreneurial university, fundamentally, what you have are people. And really, people, in terms of both our students and our staff, are what gives us an innovation and enterprise profile as a university. And more, that profile is very much being delivered within a global context. If you look on our own campus in Coventry, 143 nations are represented, both from the students and staff. It's a very cosmopolitan environment. The numbers of our students and staff are growing quite considerably as we grow as a university. Almost everything we do in terms of the internationalization of our university means that our students and staff are operating within a global context. If we then have a quick look at maybe the background of why Coventry is so enterprising and entrepreneurial in its approach, we can start to maybe look at some of the academic background. And for the academic colleagues in the room, it's always good to have some academic input. So this is some work really and some comments from a colleague I know quite well, Professor Alan Gibb, who works for what is now called NCEE, National Centre for Enterprise and Entrepreneurship, and at this time in 2009 was called NGCE, National Graduate Centre for Entrepreneurship, which is actually based on our technology park. And we're a very active player within that organisation. If you're looking for academic papers within the sphere of enterprise and innovation within the UK, then certainly I would recommend you go to their website, and certainly some of the work developed by Alan Gibb. But Alan Gibb basically came up with a definition of an entrepreneurial university. Basically, it's an exciting concept, defines those universities providing opportunities, practices, cultures, and environments conducive to actively encouraging and embracing staff, student, and graduate entrepreneurship. And really, that's at the heart of what Coventry does and the way in which Coventry operates. In some ways, some people would say we're a little American-like in terms of our support for enterprise and innovation, spin-out, startup development. But in many ways, people would say we're quite a business-facing, business-leading university within a UK context. And we believe in putting innovation and enterprise to basically the foundations of our university and the development of our university as it moves forward. The main drivers for changes that many universities are now facing around the world are simple, and you find them almost everywhere you go. It doesn't matter which country or which continent. Basically, what you're seeing is that to compete internationally, universities need to be entrepreneurial, both in terms of their social and economic activity, because there is growing pressures of uncertainty. Most countries, most universities are facing less and less public funding to enable them to succeed, and they're finding that actually there is more competition out there than has ever been before. So universities themselves have to act in an enterprising and innovative way to either maintain their position or grow their position in a global market. Recent pressure on universities have really been to serve society in a number of ways. One of which is to commercialize more and have more impact from their research, exploiting the intellectual property that universities develop. This might be hard IP in terms of new products, but it might also be related to services and approach to communities and the development of cultures. But fundamentally, one of the reasons for universities to exist is to develop new knowledge, whether that be tacit knowledge or hard knowledge, and then to exploit it into the marketplace. And there is more and more pressure upon universities to do that, both with their teaching and their research. Secondly, is to contribute more substantially to the process of regional, national and international development. In the UK, for example, at the moment, universities are now being seen as anchor institutions, the environment within which they are based. Many, many years ago, you would have large corporate organizations would set up a big factory or a big development center, and other companies would congregate around them to actually interact with those companies. Now you're seeing that's how universities are operating. Universities are developing technology parks and science parks, and then grow-on parks. And fundamentally, what you're seeing is the engine for economic growth within a number of countries. And Silicon Valley in the States, of course, is a prime example of that, is where you're finding economic growth and economic sustainability, plus the development of a global context. So although universities are getting greater autonomy, you're finding that universities are being less autonomous because their role within society is not just to undertake education or to deliver research. And finally, one of the big pushes that we've seen over the last few years is really seeking to equip students and staff for a world which is much more uncertain than it's ever been before, much more global than it's ever been before. We're seeing individuals who will have many occupations. They will move around the world and spend a number of their years operating, perhaps, or even working in different countries or in different continents. Cultural diversity is a key element of being successful in the global environment. And self-directed employment, where individuals no longer work just for one organization for their whole career, but actually choose which organizations they work for, is becoming more and more important. So if we have that as a context, how does that then relate to Coventry University itself and the way in which we support innovation and enterprise? Well, Coventry University was first established 1843. That's quite a long time ago. It was actually first put in place as two colleges, one the College of Design and one the College of Engineering in Coventry, and it was established by local industry. And it was established by local industry to combat the French. Basically, what people in Coventry were doing was they were designing things and they were making things. The problem was the French were designing them better and making them better. And therefore, local industry within Coventry was starting to go into decline. And in fact, Coventry as a city has been in decline a number of times and has reinvented itself. So for a time, it was the center, for example, for silk making and silk product development. It was the center of the British watchmaking industry before that went off to Switzerland. It was a center for making bicycles and then became a center for the automobile industry. So as a city, Coventry has reinvented itself many, many times. It has taken skills and been innovative in the way in which you can apply those skills in different ways. It has developed new ways of working. It has an established recognition now as an academic center of excellence, providing both education, research and development regionally, nationally and internationally. It's very much seen as a forward-looking university. We're at the leading edge. We're seen as a university that is willing to take a certain amount of risk. By their very nature, universities tend not to be risky. They tend to be very solid in what they do and slow changing. But Coventry, certainly over the last 10 years, and I'll talk about those in a few moments, has developed some new ways of delivering education, working with partners, and certainly some of our research work has been groundbreaking and certainly in some new areas and new disciplines. So we are seen as an organization which is at the leading edge of the developments around what universities of the future might wish to do. We are now a 27,000 student-based university in Coventry, with about 10,000 international students around the world studying our courses. We have campuses in London. We were the first regional university to go into London. We have Coventry University College, which is a sister institution to the university and delivers very vocational and professional-based degrees, the first such college within the UK. We have a number of international partnerships, and certainly our entry here into Turkey, for example, with a dual award, again, groundbreaking. A university that is looking to make a difference and do things in a different way and work very much in partnership with other organizations. Almost everything we do at Coventry is in partnership with someone, whether it be with industry, whether it be with government, or whether it be with our academic partners. We became a university in 1992. Prior to that, I actually studied at the university as an undergraduate. I actually did a degree in computer science at Coventry when it was then a polytechnic. I actually got sent to Coventry, which if you're from the UK would recognize that term. It's not a very positive term, but fundamentally I was a student of what was then a very large telecoms company called Plessey Telecommunications, and I had a place to do computer science at the UK's leading university, which at that time was Manchester for Computer Science. Or I had the choice, I could be a sponsored student, which means I received both a wage, a scholarship, and a grant and a guarantee of employment, in which case I had to go to Coventry to study, because industry sent their graduates to Coventry, whereas individuals chose, perhaps, to go to Manchester, because it was seen as a leading polytechnic in the UK to give people both a good education, but also to give them very, very high levels of employability and applied education, which was fit for industry to use immediately. In 1992, Coventry was one of the top 5 polytechnics in the UK, recognized for what it did by industry. 1992, the education system in the UK changed, and what was then the polytechnic became a university. As a university, we went from being in the top 5 of being a polytechnic to being 88 in about 105 universities, because all of the polytechnics entered the system at the bottom. The polytechnics were not necessarily welcomed by other universities at that point in time, because we took some of their funding, which is always not very popular with people who are used to receiving funding from government. We faced quite a number of competitive challenges, and certainly between 1992 and 2005, the university had to go through tremendous change and reinvention and being enterprising and entrepreneurial in itself. During that time, for example, for the first time, students in the UK-based students had to start paying for their own education. That was groundbreaking. Until then, as a student, as someone from the UK, you could go to university and effectively it was free. The thing that it did notice, though, was going back to its roots, it was very vocational, it was very business-facing, it was very practical in terms of what it could do. And so we designed a strategy which made Coventry a business-facing university, a term which had never been used very much, which was what we wanted to do, was provide very, very high-quality education, but education which was very much focused on the needs of industry. Not just any industry, but leading-edge industry within the UK to support the development of the UK industry. If you look at Coventry City now, it's the 11th largest city in the UK, population of about 330,000. 2 universities within that city now effectively give it a population of about 80,000 UK students at its max. That's a significant proportion of the city. And in fact, Coventry as a university over the next few years will now occupy a third of the city centre. So 33% of Coventry city centre will be Coventry University. And that's quite a significant impact on our environment. We then move on and start looking at the strategic background, which is where our enterprise and innovation activity starts to come from. What we have seen is a huge amount of entrepreneurial change within the university. That entrepreneurial change has meant we have reorganized ourselves to be effectively highly competitive. The very nature of being a member of staff at Coventry, as well as being a student at Coventry, means you are exposed to an innovative and entrepreneurial environment. Enterprise and innovation is seen as core to all of our developments as we move forward. We developed a very strong mission statement, and it's a mission statement we all live by. We have a number of core values. The mission statement, though, is that we aspire to be a dynamic, in other words, ever-changing, global and enterprising university. We will work in partnership, which is key, with external organizations through our research, and engage our students as partners in a community of learning. And our students are very, very key to a number of the innovations that we do at Coventry. And in fact, in many ways, they support our academic staff in the development of our learning environment and the undertaking of our research. As I get older, the gap between me and most of our customers becomes more significant. My understanding of what their needs are and what are the needs of industry also becomes wider. But by using our students to engage within that process, we keep ourselves very fresh and very close to our marketplace. If we go on, we recognized that if we were going to be successful, we set ourselves a goal which we called the 2015 test. The 2015 test closes down next year. We will know whether we have achieved all of the targets that we set ourselves. most of which related to being innovative and being entrepreneurial. We determined that we needed to actually put in place year-by-year growth targets, year-by-year change targets for our overall organization. If anybody had come to Coventry 10 or 15 years ago and came to Coventry today, you would not recognize the institution that you were to visit, both physically, structurally, but also the content of the delivery and the research that we undertake is quite world-leading and very, very impressive, even if I say so myself. Most people tell me, so I'm willing to tell it back. We have a number of areas which are fundamentally important to us. Student experience, core to our business. This year, we have been voted in the UK as the University of the Year for Student Experience. That means our customers, our students, are telling us that it's a great place to come and be educated. Not just because you have fun, but because the quality of the teaching, the quality of the education, the delivery of that education is both groundbreaking, innovative, exciting, and a place they want to be. Large percentage of our students recognize and recommend us to others. So as we move on, student experience. Back then, 2004-05, we had about 13,200 students on our campus. We now have about 24,000 undergraduates on our campus and close to 3,000 postgraduates, giving us a community of about 27,000 students. That's a big community for us to serve and manage. We've increased our student satisfaction rate in the UK, that's externally managed by government and measured, from 75% to 93%. That puts us at the top of the game. Our teaching quality, we're one of the top 3 universities in the UK for our teaching quality because mainly we are innovative and we are exciting. The other 2 are Oxford and Cambridge. So we just think about the sort of Coventry model of delivering education. We see ourselves actually right up there with the top quality providers. We've also improved as part of this process by being innovative in the way in which we deliver our education. We give significant employability skills. Our graduates are very, very employable from the time they leave us to go straight into employment. And we've raised our employment levels, graduate jobs from 60 to 71%, but overall employability to 94%, which means 94% of our students are employed 6 months after they graduate from Coventry. And that is a significant achievement and very impressive by anyone's standards. In terms of our applied research, a lot of the research we do is linked to industry and actually makes a change directly to industry. It's innovative, it's enterprising, it's around new products, new processes, and new ways of doing things. We've significantly increased our income, research income, from 10 million to 50 million. We are seen as one of the leading UK knowledge generators and basically one of the leading exploiters of knowledge. So not only do we develop knowledge, we then get it exploited in the marketplace. And we're in the top 20 in terms of UK universities for spin-outs and exploitation. And as you heard in my introduction, we are the #1 university by a long way for our work with small to medium-sized enterprises. As you saw on that film, we used to work with 5,000 SMEs 4 years ago. Last year, we worked with 9,400. And I don't mean that means they came to an event. That means we did something with them which makes a difference. And that's quite a significant position to be in as a university. In terms of our staff, staff are fundamentally important to us. We set a target to increase our own staff satisfaction, and we achieved that 1 year early. We're now running at 85% of our staff. I think we're a great place to be as well. Our IT infrastructure, fundamental. Modern universities working in a modern environment need the most latest developments in terms of IT. And that's everything from our bibliographic services in terms of our online library provision to our Wi-Fi provision to the way in which students from all over the world now studying our courses can access our systems, as well as the students that we have in Coventry. Our financial performance is very impressive. We went from 105 million turnover in 2004-05 all the way through to this year. We're about 250 million. Next year we're targeting, or the year we're now in, 280 million with a projection to get to 500 million within the next 4 years. That's quite a significant growth, but that gives us sustainability, but also the ability to invest in new and innovative ways. And then finally, of course, external recognition. It's all right for us to stand and say we're doing a good job and for our students to say that, but actually external recognition as a university are very important. So for 2 years running now, we've been Modern University of the Year, 2014, 2015 in the UK, which is a very impressive position to be. Nobody's ever done it 2 years running before, but also University of the Year, as I've said, for student experience, ranked number 42 in the Times League table, up from 88 where we originally were, and number 27 in the Guardian League table. And for those of you who are my staff in the audience, our intention is certainly to be better than that next year, so you better remember you're going to work harder as well. But fundamentally, we're still looking to improve our position quite significantly, and we think we have a long way to go. And we have a long way to go because we are different. One of the things is that where we now exist within the league tables in the UK, we don't look like any of the other universities who are around us. We do things our way. And most people will say that's because we do things in an innovative way or an extremely entrepreneurial way, but a very successful way. And we deliver what we say we will deliver, and we deliver quickly. If we look at our research, one of the areas where we were not particularly strong a few years ago was around our research. Very good at teaching and learning, but very small levels of quite good experts in terms of research, but it's an area we needed to grow. We needed to raise our profile, we needed to invest, and to do that, again, to occupy the space we saw available to us, we had to do applied research, which meant it was relevant to industry, but also it needed to be groundbreaking in new areas where other people weren't, where the barriers to entry for that research were reasonably low and achievable, but where we could become niche dominant. In other words, areas where we could become the biggest player or the most important player in a new and emerging area. So areas like serious games, the use of computer games technology, but for extremely serious applications like defense, health, and learning. We were the first UK university to enter that space seriously, and now we're seen as world leading. So we have the ability to innovate quickly, and to deliver in new and interesting areas that the market is particularly interested in entry. Our research strategy was also there to support our broader definition of what we wish to do as a university, what we wish to be known for in the marketplace. At a university, really to be fully credible, then those students need to give and be given access to the outcomes and engagement in research. Fundamentally, it's not just about teaching. It's about taking the development and the support that comes from the research environment and give that rich experience to our students. And more, our students at Coventry are aligned to the support that is being delivered by our new research centres and new research activity. In effect, we believe to a certain extent that anyone who has the authority to teach must actually be involved with or benefiting from research activity. So we have an increasing number of our academic staff more and more engaged in the development and delivery of research, consultancy, or external services to our partners. And it's very important that we do that. The learning experience, I've already said, of our students is supported by this activity, and actually a lot of our engagement with industry, a lot of our new developments are really focused around the feedback that we get from the partners we work with, either in terms of our spin-outs or in terms of our corporate partners. And to give you a feel, as a university, we now have 30 strategic relationships with very, very large corporates. We work with 500 global corporate organizations, and as I've already mentioned, we also work with about 9,500 SMEs a year. There's a lot of interaction between our university and the outside world, and that gives a lot of experience to our students in terms of their engagement with industry, and a lot of experience to our staff to enable them to innovate and also to become more and more entrepreneurial. We've developed a number of policies within the university. It's interesting that actually as a university, we have a requirement to support our staff and our students engage in enterprise and entrepreneurship. If somebody has a good idea and it become licensable, if it becomes a potential spin-out company, if it becomes a piece of research that we can exploit, we have a responsibility as a university to support those individuals and to take as much of the pain of starting a company, licensing a product, or actually taking an idea forward as we possibly can. And we have a significant support infrastructure in place as a university, including our technology park, which is run by one of our companies within our group, where we can actually base those technology companies or spin out companies from the university and actually exploit them. And we already have examples of multi-million-pound spin-outs from our university who are now market leaders in the UK in terms of the development of their products. There's a company, if you wish to have a look at it, called Sprue Aegis. Sprue Aegis is now the UK's leading provider of fire safety products. So smoke detectors within people's homes, carbon monoxide detectors within people's homes. The biggest company in the UK, now entering the German market, now entering the Dutch market, a company called Sprue Aegis. 2 graduates from Coventry who worked with our technology park to start a business, to develop 2 new products. They entered a market which was very competitive. There was a company called First Alert, which was already the market leader, but their product was so innovative, so enterprising, and so entrepreneurial, they completely displaced that company, now own that company, and are now seen as one of the UK's leading proponents of fire safety products in the UK. Those 2 graduates remember where they came from. They're quite happy to come back and speak at Coventry. They also are quite profitable for the university because we also still have some shares, equity shares within the company, so we're very happy about that. But the most important thing for us, and certainly the most important thing for me, for the 6 months they couldn't pay the rent in our technology park, I didn't kick them out because we believed in the technology that they had. And so that willingness and that ability to, one, take a risk, to understand what a good idea looks like, and then understand what the market potential of an idea looks like, even if it might not have been delivered against a business plan. I'll talk about business plans in a moment. Means that you can be extremely entrepreneurial, extremely innovative, and extremely successful, as long as you realize where the market is and what you're trying to do. So if we do look at our enterprise, employability, and entrepreneurship activity, for which we are now extremely well known in the UK, employability is at the core of all of our education provision. It is key for us that anyone who undertakes an education program at Coventry has the best chance, once they graduate from us, to actually go into employability. Suitable employability, in other words, graduate level employability, and in a field that they wish to enter. And to do that means that we have to put in place a number of support programs to enable us to do that. And I'll talk about one in a moment, which is around our Advantage modules. We also have to put in place an environment. So Coventry University Enterprises Limited is a subsidiary of the university. It operates our technology park. It also operates a number of support programs for both our staff and our students. Those programs are key to making our students and our staff successful in their exploitation of their ideas and their innovations. We also have developed a certain amount of expertise within our university to support this activity. So to give you a feel, Coventry University Enterprises Limited has 105 business support staff. We have an IP support team of 6, which actually supports our intellectual property, and we have a number of business support people who's there to support both companies within the UK, but also within the region within which we operate. The way in which we support students and enable them and engage them is that all students have the opportunity as part of their programs to take employability modules as part of their course of study. They're credited, that gives them some benefit towards their degree program, whether it be undergraduate and for some programs postgraduate. But it's key that we ensure that everyone has access to those skills which enable them to take forward and become graduates who will make a difference to the world in which they move out into. We have put in place an Institute of Applied Entrepreneurship, an academic home for enterprise and entrepreneurship. It's an academic home which is not in our business school. If you read a lot of the papers that have been produced by academic colleagues around where enterprise and entrepreneurship activity should be based, it's not always key to put it within a business school environment. It's key to have a business school involved in its development, but it's also key to have other parts of the university directly involved in the development and the support of enterprise and entrepreneurship. Because actually the individuals who are coming into that centre, into that institute, will be coming from many disciplines and don't just necessarily need business skills to take their idea forward. We've also, as a university, set up a second subsidiary called CU Social Enterprise Limited, which is around supporting people who wish to set up social enterprises to support communities and activity. We were the first university in the UK to introduce undergraduate and postgraduate degrees where actually starting a business is a requirement for completing and being successful within your degree. So effectively, if you take our enterprise degree, fundamentally as part of that degree, you have to design your business, you have to actually start trading, and you have to be successful. And that's part of the criteria for actually graduating from our business, from that degree in terms of moving it forward. That means that fundamentally at the heart of that degree program is enterprise and entrepreneurship. We have large amounts of student placements. We also have a number of international visas for international students to come and study at the university. We also have our own fund, which allows us to support student startup and student activity. If we move on to spin-outs, just to finalize in terms of where we are, we have many, many spin-outs from the university. We had 66 spin-outs 4 years ago. We now have 125. A number of these are from staff, a number of them from students. But fundamentally, we treat them all the same. It's all about exploiting knowledge and make sure that that knowledge transfer takes place as effectively as it possibly can. We have a number of grants which are available to our students and to our staff, and we look to support them as well as we can. It's up to the university, as I've said, to actually ensure that students and staff benefit from our expertise and knowledge. Individuals have a good idea and they might be able to form that idea into a new business, but will they make that business a success? We don't know. But what we do know is that if you start a business at Coventry University, you have an 86% chance of still being trading after 3 years. And that's a significant proportion of businesses who start, who remain successful and trading in the marketplace. And that's a key measure of success in this game. So as a university, we will look to meet the costs of the startup because the long-term benefits are quite significant. We'll support companies almost forever because we see them as part of our family, as much as we see alumni of the university as a key driver for our success in the future. So we have a number of alumni of the university around the world who are now in very key management positions. But we also have a number of alumni of the university who are leading very, very groundbreaking, innovative and entrepreneurial startups and spin-outs. And they are just as successful to us as anybody else that we actually graduate from the institution. So basically, we are facing a number of uncertain times and uncertain processes. The economic market is very difficult that we're operating in, both as a university, and the economic climate is very difficult. But as a university, we are willing to invest and support both staff and students with any of their ideas as they move forward. We have fixed processes in place to actually support staff who wish to start companies, and we will also support taking equity in those companies to make them a future success. So just to finish off in terms of the journey that we're on, because we're now starting our next 10-year journey, and we're just starting to write our corporate strategy of growth over the next period to take us to 2021. Fundamentally, as a university, we have 3 core strategies: our teaching and learning, our research, and our international, all of which are underpinned by our enterprise and innovation programs. We look to see within any strategy we develop at the university how they're going to support enterprise activity of our students and staff, and how they're going to actually put in place innovative approaches to developing the markets within which we operate. So I'd like to finish there in terms of concluding my speech. Hopefully we'll then move to some questions if people have, but fundamentally Coventry sees itself as an entrepreneurial university to its core, and most of what we do is seen as innovative and groundbreaking. Thank you very much. And if anybody's got any questions, I'm quite happy to take them. But if you haven't, don't worry. Yep.
also, is there a system where you go back to all those idea pools later on over the years, just in case anything that you have neglected? And the second question is specifically, why did you choose Turkey to partner with, and why Featherhouse University? And what are your expectations? And any other examples in other countries?
Okay. Simple answer to the last one, and then I'll give you the real answer. Simple answer is, why wouldn't you choose Qadir Has? Obvious, very nice facilities, a good reputation in terms of where we are, in terms of what you're doing. I think the main focus around research is to be bold and to be different. So one of the areas where we've got at the moment, in fact, we're going through a complete transformation of our research centres. So up until about a year ago, we had a number of Grand Challenge research centres. They're working very well, promoting very well, increasing our research activity significantly. And then we've decided that we want a new research strategy to take us to 2021. And as part of that, and Alp can actually test this because Alp has been part of this process, we've actually dissolved all of our research centres. We actually told them all they don't exist anymore unless they can write us a new business plan, which means we're going to continue to invest in them because we want to grow our research quite significantly. This is the second time we've gone through this process. We did it about 10 years ago, which for a number of years, the university had very, very well recognized research centers. But they weren't giving us the transformational change that we wanted as a university. So effectively, we dissolved them. We made them write new business plans. We invested in them. And this will give you an interesting fact. So at that time, we invested £150,000 into those research centers, which we thought was a lot of money, by the way, at that time. And they wrote a business plan, and then we monitored them against the business plan annually to see how successful they would be. And some were very good, and they were successful, and they grew, and some were not so good, and maybe they didn't grow so much. So about a year ago, we went through the entire process, but this time we're promising to invest £1 million into them, but we do want 10 times as much in return. But Alp went through the process, and we have our Centre for Trust, Peace and Reconciliation, and Alp is one of the co-directors of that centre, because we have a recognition that Coventry is a city which is recognised for peace and reconciliation, so that's useful. We have a lot of expertise within the university around peace and reconciliation, so that's useful. There are not many people operating within the field of peace and reconciliation, so we can be reasonably dominant within the area. There's a great deal of interest around peace and reconciliation, particularly post-conflict, because over the last few years, there's been a little bit of conflict around the world. There's a little bit quite close to here at the moment. So we think it's quite a sustainable business in terms of it's going to be around for a while. And we think that we can make a significant difference in that area. So if you look at it, we are going to have, by the end of this year, 14 new, some of which are enlarged, some of which are more multidisciplinary, but 14 new research centres. So we're going to be researching in, for example, biosciences, because we have strength in that particular area, transport, because Coventry is recognised for its work in transport in terms of design, peace and reconciliation, applied technology-enabled healthcare, because we've got a lot of developments within that space. So we have really focused down on somewhere where we can be dominant. There's a reasonable niche or innovative element of the research. So it's groundbreaking, it's a new area, it's not particularly an old research topic. And that we can see that in the marketplace, we can be recognized as a university for doing research in that space. So each of those research centers are being established against a business plan, 7-year business plan, with targets, but fundamentally where we can see that Coventry can have a really good reputation in the future. And trust me, not all of my academic colleagues like the fact that we completely wipe out their research center and make them all start again. But it's good for them, isn't it, Alp? Yeah, absolutely. There you go. I know Alp would be. Alp's been very successful in this space, so I'm sure he'll see that. So fundamentally, that's where we would see our research. It's also research which is of interest to national government and international government. So there's a lot of European funded programs for our research. There's a lot of national government funding for our research, but also there's a lot of interest from industry for our research. We want it to be applied. We want it to be impactful. So in other words, if you undertake research at Coventry, we want to see it being used in the field. You know, so in some of the work, for example, that ALP's doing is around post-conflict. Where can we go and actually make a difference, and actually for peace to be instilled within the places within which we're operating? In the transport area, where is it that the research we're doing around automotive design will then be implemented into vehicles, so we can actually see a direct impact from research? There is a lot of research in UK universities, but global universities. It's very good research, but it just goes on the shelf and it stays there, and it's not necessarily exploited to the full amount. In terms of coming here, as a second question, as a university, we're going through, again, a transformation process. We have a new international strategy, which we started to implement about 2 years ago, and fully was signed off around about a year ago. And in many ways, one thing we're doing is reducing the number of partners that we've got, a little bit like our research centers. There's a common theme here. So we want to reduce the number of partners we've got to a few key partners where we can see we can have a multi-touch relationship. So in other words, we can do teaching and learning, we can do international activities, we can do research, so we can see a benefit. Organizations who we can see through the partnership we can have a relationship with, rather than just some legal documents that are exchanging between the two organizations. And organizations where the direction of travel, in other words, where they are looking to go, is a very similar trajectory to where we are looking to go. Because for us, it's very key that we do things the Coventry way, but we also need to recognize that other universities are going in the same direction as the Coventry way. And Kadir Has fell within the criteria that we were looking for, a key partner. Turkey as a market is quite an interesting market in terms of possibilities. One of the things that's always been interesting about Turkey, of course, is spanning the two continents and what that gives you access to, which is reasonably unique. Therefore, you might have a niche dominant area in terms of if you look at Turkey as a country. There's not many countries that have that continental twinning opportunity. So logically, if you go through that process, you'll come to a solution that says, you need to find a partner in somewhere like Turkey. Kadir Has comes out of the mix at the end of that process of elimination. So if you look at the similar partnership we're now doing in China with Swappel as a university, again, there are linkages, types of market, types of courses that are being delivered, but also their aspiration of where they wish to go within the Chinese market, and we're looking at other markets at the moment as well. But I think we will end up with probably 4 or 5 key international campus partners as a university, and they will be in different continents or different parts of the world, creating a network which we will see as part of our network of activity, which then gives us the opportunity for student exchange, staff exchange, global activity. And it might be that I know there's some colleagues in the audience here. I've just saw a colleague that I know from South Africa. I don't know if Herman's still in the room. But fundamentally, we see Africa, for example, as another continent that we would see having a base in terms of developing. Okay. Sorry, that was a long answer to a shortish question, but with you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. I am from oil and gas thank you. That's being a proud for us to be participating in this university. What should be said from those remarkable SMEs and 500 big enterprises? Is there any oil and gas sector? Because your focus is more on the transportation from the rest. Now I know if there are some kind of innovations or research on oil and gas sector, and how the Coventry trade with the oil and gas sector company and the branch. Thank you.
Very good question. Was he a plant from the? Oh. Yeah, okay. Well, David Pillsbury here is actually leading a major oil and gas initiative for us at the moment, because oil and gas is one of those markets where we already do some work, but logically we should be able to do a lot more work, because the technology and the approach that we have within the university is in an adjacent market. So if you have a look at some of the research that's going on within our mathematics group, for example, which is around analyzing flow of liquids. So one of the big programs we're putting together at the moment was with the National Engineering Laboratory, which is up in Scotland, East Kilbride. And what they do is they actually do a lot of research work into the flow of oil and gas out of the ground and into the oil rig and then onto. And some of our mathematicians at the moment are doing some very interesting work about how you measure how much oil is actually in the sludge that comes out of the ground. Because actually you can make £1 billion difference a day to the value of a company if you can more accurately measure the amount of oil that comes out of the ground or not. So fundamentally, we have a lot of strong links with a lot of oil and gas companies already. The institute that we talked about earlier, which is Unive, they already provide to the oil and gas industry a lot of pipe work, a lot of pipe products. We're very closely linked with them. And certainly through NEL, National Engineering Laboratory, we're working with all the major oil and gas companies. And in fact, we operate oil and gas degrees out of our London campus. Obviously, we're looking at the linkages here, and we have a number of developments within our Coventry campus. It's a big industry. It's going to be around for a long time. And as long as you can identify, again, your niche areas where you can be reasonably dominant, it will make a difference. Okay. Any more questions?
Startups, but it's hard becoming global. So how do you support your?
Okay, there are a number of ways in which we support global entrepreneurship. I mean, one of the biggest issues you have is quite often when somebody comes up with a really good idea, the market for that idea is not the local market. They might come up with an idea for a product, but the best market might be China, or it might be America, or it might be somewhere else. So what we've done is we have extremely strong linkages with UK Trade and Investment, which is the national agency in the UK. And in fact, we operate and have operated for UK Trade and Investment a number of what we call soft landing zones around the world, which are basically offices which support on technology parks, on science parks, who welcome in startup companies. Because one of the keys to success is if you can get a company that's starting up into the market where their product will sell very early, then they've got a much higher chance of success than trying to sell from their home market into the overseas market. And one of the advantages a lot of universities have is a lot of international partners. So if you look at our partnership network of universities, most of whom have technology parks, who are involved in technology parks, that means we have a gateway into those markets for those startups. So one of the things that is very, very important from a university point of view, one is to be able to use our undergraduate and graduates to support companies. In other words, get them involved in developing the business plan and moving everything forward. But fundamentally, to then have in place the ability to, one, protect. So in other words, take the patent out on a global basis, but then also using our partnership network to support that company move into that global market as quickly as possible. And most companies that eventually fail is because they cannot get impact in the market where their product will sell. So for example, if you look at computer games technology, if you look at that from an entertainment games, so you've got 3G in that market, isn't it? Guns, girls and gambling. Yeah, and basically, if you develop a really good gambling game, it'll sell hugely in Asia. Yeah, if it's guns, it'll sell hugely in the US. And if it's girls, Europe's a big market for you in terms of where it is. So, okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Interdisciplinary work between faculties is a very important aspect in the context of entrepreneurship and innovation. How do you tackle this?
Well, Coventry is an extremely interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. In fact, most of our research teams have got people coming together from different disciplines, either within the same faculty or across faculty. And actually, if you look at university, so again, some colleagues, particularly if you're watching this from Coventry, do forgive me, faculty structures are a management tool. Most universities are actually based on disciplines, so departments or disciplines. And you can restructure the university however you wish, but usually what you end up with is a number of disciplines which you can then bring together in different ways. So one of the things that we're very keen with the business plans that we put together for our faculty research centres, and particularly for our university research centres, because we've got research centres at 2 levels, is to actually try and see who you can bring from different areas together in a new way, an innovative way, to actually then go to the marketplace. Because actually, if we want to have a niche dominance in a market, usually you're going to have to do it these days by being multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. Because most of these single disciplines are already taken up by more established research institutions. So almost all of our faculty research centres are interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, which has got people from different disciplines, and the university research centres, of which ALP is one, is not even in a faculty. We've actually taken those two university research centres out of the faculties they were in and actually created them in the centre. So they're actually operating outside of a faculty, which can be beneficial because they've now got their own building and a number of other things that they've got. But they do have to deliver, of course, which is slightly different in terms of where they are. But I think you're right. I mean, if you want to make a difference in the marketplace these days, a real impact, then it's going to be multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. It's not going to be unidisciplinary. And you have to encourage that, by the way. Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you all very much indeed. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.